The story begins with Jasmine Crockett, a fiery and outspoken Democratic congresswoman known for her bold statements and unfiltered opinions. She had made quite a name for herself in the political world, often grabbing headlines for her sharp critiques of Republicans. One day during an appearance on a popular political talk show, she was asked about Karoline Leavitt, a young Republican candidate from New Hampshire who was quickly gaining attention for her grassroots campaign. Crockett didn't hold back. With a smirk that could cut through steel, she dismissed Leavitt as someone riding the coattails of former President Donald Trump. "Oh, come on," she said, leaning into the microphone with a tone dripping in sarcasm. "She's just another blonde trying to ride the Trump wave. What's next, a reality TV show?" The audience erupted in laughter, but not everyone found her comments amusing. Her words were sharp, cutting, and dismissive, painting Leavitt as nothing more than a superficial figurehead without substance. What Crockett didn't realize at the time was that her offhand remark would ignite a firestorm. Within hours, clips of her comments began circulating online, spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. Conservatives seized on her words, accusing her of being condescending and dismissive. They argued that her remarks weren't just about Leavitt. They were emblematic of a larger attitude within certain circles of the Democratic Party that looked down on younger, less experienced candidates. On Twitter, hashtags like Respect Women in Politics and Jasmine Gate started trending, drawing both support and criticism. Meanwhile, liberals rallied behind Crockett, defending her remarks as justified criticism of Leavitt's policies, or lack thereof, as they saw it. They pointed out that Leavitt's campaign platform was still developing and questioned whether she truly had the experience needed to represent her constituents effectively. For them, Crockett's comments were simply calling out what they viewed as a shallow attempt to gain fame by aligning with controversial figures. Enter Greg Gutfeld, the quick-witted host of Fox News The Five and his late-night comedy show Gutfeld. Known for his sharp humor and ability to turn even the smallest controversy into a full-blown spectacle, Gutfeld wasted no time jumping into the fray. When he caught wind of Crockett's remarks, he immediately recognized an opportunity to make some noise. That evening, as he prepared for his show, he scribbled notes furiously on a legal pad, jotting down jokes and observations that would later become the backbone of his takedown. On air, Gutfeld opened with a sly grin, leaning back in his chair, as if he were about to deliver the punchline of a great joke. "Well, folks, we've got ourselves a little drama today," he began, his voice laced with mock seriousness. "It seems our dear Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has decided to weigh in on young Karoline Leavitt, and let me tell you, it's not pretty." He played a clip of Crockett's now infamous comment, pausing dramatically after each word to let it sink in. The studio audience chuckled nervously, sensing they were in for a treat. Gutfeld wasn't done yet. After replaying the clip, he launched into a series of zingers aimed squarely at Crockett. "You know, I always thought stereotypes were beneath us," he quipped, raising an eyebrow. "But apparently all it takes is one clever quip about blondes to bring them roaring back to life." His delivery was perfect, equal parts playful and cutting, leaving viewers unsure whether to laugh or cringe. As the segment unfolded, Gutfeld painted Crockett as someone who talked a big game about equality and respect, but couldn't resist taking cheap shots when it suited her. What made Gutfeld's approach so effective was how he framed the issue. Rather than simply attacking Crockett personally, he used her remarks to highlight what he saw as a broader hypocrisy. "Here's the thing," he explained, leaning forward as if sharing a secret with the audience. "If you're going to claim the moral high ground, you can't turn around and knock someone based on their looks or age. That's not leadership, that's lazy." His argument resonated with many viewers, especially those frustrated with the growing divide between rhetoric and action in politics. As the night wore on, Gutfeld brought up examples of other politicians who had faced similar backlash for dismissive comments. He reminded viewers of past controversies where women in particular had been judged harshly for perceived slights against one another. "We're supposed to be moving forward, right?" he mused, his tone shifting slightly to something more reflective. "So why does it feel like we're stuck in this endless cycle of tearing each other down?" By the end of the segment, Gutfeld had accomplished two things. He'd entertained his audience with his trademark humor, and he'd planted a seed of doubt about Crockett's intentions. Was she really critiquing Leavitt's policies, or was she guilty of the same kind of prejudice she often accused Republicans of perpetuating? It was a question that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling, sparking debates in living rooms and online forums alike. For Crockett, the fallout was immediate. Overnight, she became the center of a national conversation, not necessarily the kind she wanted. Supporters praised her for standing firm and refusing to back down, while critics pounced on her remarks as evidence of arrogance. Meanwhile, Leavitt's campaign received a surprising boost. Donations poured in, and her team capitalized on the controversy by framing her as a resilient underdog fighting against elitism. As the dust settled, one thing was clear. Greg Gutfeld had once again proven himself a master of turning political squabbles into must-watch television. Whether you loved him or hated him, there was no denying his ability to keep people talking and tuning in for more. The controversy surrounding Jasmine Crockett's remarks about Karoline Leavitt continued to escalate, drawing more attention with each passing day. As clips of her comments spread across social media, they became a hot topic not just among political junkies but also among casual observers who couldn't resist weighing in. Everyone seemed to have an opinion. Was Crockett justified in critiquing Leavitt, or had she crossed a line by mocking her appearance and age? The debate raged on, fueled by pundits, politicians, and everyday people eager to chime in. Crockett, ever the fighter, wasn't about to let the backlash go unanswered. A few days after the initial uproar, she held a press conference to address the situation head-on. Standing behind a podium emblazoned with the seal of the United States Congress, she looked poised and confident as cameras flashed around her. "Let me be clear," she began, her voice firm but measured. "My comments were never intended to attack Ms. Leavitt personally. They were meant to critique her policies, or lack thereof." She went on to explain that she believed Leavitt's campaign lacked depth and originality, relying instead on flashy rhetoric and alignment with divisive figures like former President Trump. Her explanation, however, didn't sit well with everyone. Critics argued that no matter how you sliced it, dismissing someone as just another blonde was inherently dismissive and reductive. Even some members of her own party privately expressed concerns that her words could alienate younger voters or women who might otherwise support her. Progressives worried that the controversy would overshadow their broader message of inclusivity and equality. Meanwhile, conservatives seized on the moment to paint Crockett as out of touch and hypocritical, a politician who claimed to champion marginalized groups while simultaneously tearing down a young woman trying to make her mark. Enter Greg Gutfeld, once again ready to capitalize on the growing tension. By now, his initial takedown of Crockett had gone viral, earning him praise from conservatives and ire from liberals. But Gutfeld wasn't done yet. Sensing an opportunity to keep the momentum going, he announced on his show that he would dedicate an entire episode to dissecting the fallout from Crockett's remarks. "We're calling it Blonde Ambition," he joked during a promo segment, grinning mischievously at the camera. Because apparently, being blonde is the new scandal. When the night of the special episode arrived, anticipation was high. Viewers tuned in expecting fireworks, and Gutfeld did not disappoint. He kicked things off with a montage of Crockett's press conference, intercut with footage of Leavitt speaking passionately at town halls and shaking hands with voters. As the clips played, Gutfeld provided running commentary, his tone alternating between sarcastic and incredulous. "Notice how she says her comments weren't personal," he quipped, gesturing toward the screen. "And yet here we are, still talking about hair color. Funny how that works, isn't it?" Gutfeld then brought on a panel of guests to discuss the issue further, including comedians, political analysts, and even a body language expert. The diversity of perspectives added depth to the conversation, making the segment feel less like a one-sided rant and more like a genuine exploration of the topic. One guest, a comedian known for his sharp wit, joked that if being blonde disqualified someone from politics, half of Hollywood would need to step aside. Another, a political analyst, pointed out that such controversies often reveal deeper biases within the system, regardless of intent. Throughout the discussion, Gutfeld kept the energy high, steering the conversation with his trademark blend of humor and insight. At one point, he turned to the body language expert and asked, "So what do you think? Does Crockett come across as sincere when she says this wasn't personal?" The expert hesitated before responding diplomatically. "Well, her words suggest sincerity, but her delivery, let's just say it leaves room for interpretation." The audience erupted in laughter, clearly enjoying the playful yet thought-provoking dynamic. As the segment progressed, Gutfeld shifted gears slightly, using the controversy as a springboard to discuss broader issues facing women in politics. He acknowledged that both Crockett and Leavitt were navigating a challenging landscape where every move was scrutinized and every misstep amplified. "It's tough out there," he admitted, his tone momentarily serious. "Women in politics face double standards all the time, whether it's about their looks, their tone, or their qualifications. And that's something we should all care about." This unexpected moment of reflection caught many viewers off guard. While Gutfeld was known for his biting humor, he rarely delved into deeper societal issues. Some appreciated the change of pace, seeing it as evidence that he cared about more than just ratings. Others dismissed it as a calculated attempt to soften his image. Either way, it added a layer of complexity to the narrative, leaving audiences unsure whether to view him as a provocateur or a thoughtful commentator, or perhaps a bit of both. Meanwhile, the controversy showed no signs of dying down. Conservative outlets continued to hammer Crockett, accusing her of elitism and hypocrisy. Liberal media pushed back, framing her as a victim of manufactured outrage designed to distract from real policy debates. Social media remained abuzz with memes, hot takes, and impassioned arguments, ensuring that the story stayed in the public consciousness. For Karoline Leavitt, the situation presented an unexpected opportunity. Her campaign team quickly pivoted, using the controversy to rally support and highlight her resilience. In interviews, she maintained a dignified stance, refusing to engage in personal attacks against Crockett. Instead, she focused on her vision for the future, emphasizing themes of unity and progress. "I'm running because I believe in bringing people together," she told reporters during a campaign stop. "And that includes reaching across the aisle, even when it's hard." Leavitt's approach earned her praise from both sides of the aisle, with some commentators noting that she was handling the situation with grace and maturity beyond her years. Donations poured into her campaign, and her name recognition soared. Suddenly, she wasn't just a local candidate. She was a national figure thrust into the spotlight by a single controversial remark. Back in Washington, Crockett found herself under increasing pressure to clarify her position. Allies urged her to issue a formal apology to Leavitt, hoping to put the matter to rest before it caused lasting damage. Others advised her to stay the course, arguing that backing down would only embolden her critics. Caught between competing interests, Crockett opted for a middle ground. During a subsequent interview, she reiterated her earlier statements while adding a conciliatory note. "If my words came across as hurtful, I regret that. My focus has always been on ideas, not individuals." Whether her apology satisfied anyone remained to be seen. What was clear, however, was that the controversy had become a defining moment, not just for Crockett and Leavitt, but for the larger conversation about how women navigate the treacherous waters of modern politics. And through it all, Greg Gutfeld stood at the center of the storm, gleefully fanning the flames with his unique brand of satire and insight. As the episode wrapped up, Gutfeld leaned back in his chair, looking directly into the camera. "You know, folks, politics is messy," he said with a wry smile. "But hey, that's what makes it so much fun to talk about. Until next time, keep your wits sharp, and your blonde jokes sharper." The audience erupted in applause as the credits rolled, leaving viewers eager for whatever drama would unfold next. The next chapter of this unfolding drama began with Greg Gutfeld fully embracing his role as the ringleader of the controversy. Having already set the stage with biting commentary and clever quips, he decided to take things up a notch during his next episode of Gutfeld. The show opened with a flashy montage that juxtaposed Jasmine Crockett's press conference with clips of Karoline Leavitt engaging with voters on the campaign trail. As the images flashed across the screen, dramatic music played in the background, creating an almost cinematic effect. Gutfeld sat at his desk smirking as he introduced the segment. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, leaning into the camera with exaggerated enthusiasm, "tonight we dive deeper into the saga of blonde ambition, because apparently, hair, color is now a national security issue." From the moment he started speaking, it was clear Gutfeld was in top form. He began by revisiting Crockett's explanation from her press conference, replaying key moments where she insisted her comments were policy-focused rather than personal. Each time he paused the clip, he interjected with razor-sharp observations. "Notice how she says it wasn't personal," Gutfeld remarked, raising an eyebrow for comedic effect. But then immediately follows it up with, "Just another blonde." Not sure what dictionary you're using, Congresswoman, but in mine, that sounds pretty personal." His jokes landed well with the live studio audience, who laughed and cheered enthusiastically. Yet Gutfeld didn't rely solely on humor. He skillfully wove in moments of pointed critique. He argued that Crockett's remarks undermined her credibility as someone who claimed to advocate for equality. "If you're going to call out bias, you can't turn around and perpetuate it yourself," he said, his tone shifting slightly to something more serious. "That's like yelling at someone for littering while throwing your own trash on the ground." This analogy resonated with viewers, many of whom nodded along, appreciating the clarity of his argument. To make the segment even more engaging, Gutfeld brought in a panel of diverse voices to weigh in on the controversy. Among them was a political strategist, a cultural critic, and a former congressional aide turned commentator. Each guest brought a unique perspective, ensuring the conversation remained dynamic and multifaceted. When the political strategist suggested that Crockett's remarks might have been a calculated move to energize her base, Gutfeld jumped in with characteristic wit. "Ah yes, nothing gets the troops fired up like a good stereotype," he quipped, eliciting laughter from both the panelists and the audience. The cultural critic took a different angle, pointing out that such controversies often revealed deeper societal biases. Whether intentional or not, these kinds of comments reinforce harmful stereotypes about women, especially young women, in positions of power, she explained. Gutfeld listened intently before responding thoughtfully. "You're absolutely right," he said, surprising some viewers with his sincerity. "And that's why this isn't just about two politicians duking it out. It's about how we talk, about women in leadership, and whether we're holding everyone to the same standard." This exchange marked a turning point in the segment. While Gutfeld was undeniably having fun poking fun at Crockett, he also seemed genuinely interested in exploring the broader implications of the feud. At one point, he turned to the former congressional aide and asked, "Do you think this kind of rhetoric helps or hurts women in politics overall?" The aide hesitated before answering. "Honestly, it depends. For some, it reinforces the idea that women need to be twice as careful with their words. For others, it highlights the double standards they face daily." Gutfeld nodded, clearly, intrigued by the complexity of the issue. Throughout the discussion, Gutfeld kept the energy high, steering the conversation with his trademark blend of humor and insight. At one particularly memorable moment, he joked about the absurdity of reducing someone's qualifications to their appearance. "If being blonde disqualified you from politics, we'd have to kick out half of Hollywood and possibly every third person in California," he quipped, drawing roars of laughter from the audience. Yet, beneath the levity, there was a kernel of truth to his words. By framing the issue in such stark terms, he forced viewers to confront uncomfortable questions about bias and representation. As the segment neared its conclusion, Gutfeld shifted, gears once again focusing on Karoline Leavitt's response, or lack thereof, to the controversy. Unlike Crockett, who had spent days defending herself, Leavitt had largely stayed quiet, choosing instead to let her actions speak for themselves. Clips of her interacting warmly with constituents and delivering impassioned speeches about unity and progress filled the screen. Gutfeld leaned forward, gesturing toward the footage. "Look at this," he said, his voice tinged with admiration. No interview slamming her opponent, no social media clapbacks, just pure unfiltered hustle. You've got to respect that. Went on to contrast Leavitt's approach with Crockett's, suggesting that sometimes silence could be the most powerful statement of all. There's something refreshing about seeing someone rise above the noise and focus on what really matters, he mused. Maybe that's why her campaign is gaining so much traction. People are tired of the endless bickering. They want solutions. By the end of the segment, Gutfeld had succeeded in doing what he does best, entertaining his audience while sparking meaningful conversations. Viewers walked away feeling entertained, but also challenged to think critically about the issues at hand. Social media lit up once again, with fans praising Gutfeld for his ability to balance humor with substance. Critics, however, accused him of cherry-picking examples to fit his narrative, arguing that his portrayal of Leavitt as a saintly underdog ignored legitimate concerns about her inexperience. Meanwhile, the fallout from the controversy continued to ripple through the political landscape. For Crockett, the pressure mounted as calls for accountability grew louder. Some within her party urged her to issue a full-throated apology, fearing that the controversy could alienate swing voters ahead of the upcoming election cycle. Others defended her fiercely, accusing conservatives of blowing the situation out of proportion. Amidst the chaos, Crockett appeared increasingly isolated, struggling to regain control of the narrative. For Leavitt, the opposite was true. Her campaign benefited immensely from the attention, with donations pouring in and volunteers signing up in droves. She seized the opportunity to position herself as a unifying figure, emphasizing themes of collaboration and hope. In interviews, she repeatedly declined to engage in personal attacks against Crockett, instead focusing on her vision for the future. At the end of the day, it's not about me versus anyone else, she told reporters during a campaign stop. It's about building a better tomorrow for everyone. As the dust settled, or at least appeared to settle temporarily, Greg Gutfeld reveled in the chaos he had helped create. His late-night show became must-watch television, drawing record-breaking ratings and cementing his status as a master provocateur. Whether you loved him or hated him, there was no denying his impact. He had taken a seemingly minor remark and turned it into a national conversation, proving yet again that in the world of politics, perception often mattered as much as reality. As the credits rolled on another explosive episode of Gutfeld, the host leaned back in his chair, grinning mischievously at the camera. "Well, folks, that's all the time we have for tonight," he said, his voice dripping with mock finality. "But don't worry, the drama never sleeps. Until next time, keep your minds open and your blonde jokes ready." The audience erupted in applause, eagerly anticipating whatever fireworks would come next. The aftermath of Greg Gutfeld's explosive takedown of Jasmine Crockett continued to reverberate across the country, sparking debates in living rooms, workplaces, and online forums. Social media platforms buzzed with reactions as people weighed in on whether Crockett had crossed a line or if Gutfeld was simply exploiting the situation for entertainment. The controversy had become more than just a clash between two political figures. It was now a cultural flashpoint that exposed deep divisions over how women are perceived and treated in politics. For conservatives, Gutfeld's segment was nothing short of brilliant. They praised him for shining a light on what they saw as hypocrisy within progressive circles. Finally, someone calling out the double standards, one Twitter user wrote, echoing sentiments shared by thousands of others. Conservative commentators seized the moment to amplify their arguments, accusing liberals of applying different rules depending on who was involved. Clips from Gutfeld's show were replayed endlessly on Fox News, with hosts like Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham adding fuel to the fire. "This isn't about hair color, it's about respect," Hannity declared during his primetime broadcast. "And when you dismiss someone based on stereotypes, you lose all credibility." On the other side of the aisle, progressives rallied behind Crockett, framing her remarks as justified criticism misinterpreted by her opponents. Many argued that Leavitt's campaign lacked substance and that Crockett was merely pointing out flaws in her platform, a valid form of political discourse. Some even accused Gutfeld of willfully distorting her words to score cheap points. Greg Gutfeld is playing both sides here, a liberal blogger wrote in a scathing op-ed. He pretends to care about fairness while using this feud to boost his own ratings. Classic hypocrisy. Supporters of Crockett took to Instagram and TikTok, posting memes and videos defending her stance, often highlighting instances where male politicians had made similar critiques without facing the same level of backlash. Amidst the polarized reactions, there was also a surprising amount of nuance in the conversation. A growing number of voices, both inside and outside the political sphere, began questioning why such controversies always seemed to spiral out of control. Prominent female politicians joined the discussion, offering perspectives that transcended party lines. Senator Marsha Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee, tweeted, "Women in politics already face enough challenges without tearing each other down. Let's focus on ideas, not appearances." Her message resonated widely, garnering support from unlikely allies, including Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who retweeted Blackburn's post with the comment, "Agreed. Respect should be non-negotiable." Even late-night comedians couldn't resist chiming in. Stephen Colbert dedicated a segment of The Late Show to mocking Gutfeld's handling of the controversy, joking that he might as well rename his program Blondegate, the musical. Trevor Noah used the incident to explore broader themes of sexism in politics, pointing out that women often faced harsher scrutiny than their male counterparts. "Imagine if a man said something like this," Noah quipped during an episode of The Daily Show. "People would call him confident, but when a woman says it, suddenly she's labeled arrogant or condescending. That's the world we live in." While the public debated the merits of each side, Jasmine Crockett found herself under increasing pressure to address the fallout. Behind closed doors, advisors urged her to soften her tone and reach out directly to Karoline Leavitt. "You don't have to agree with her policies," one strategist reportedly advised, "but acknowledging the impact of your words could go a long way." Others warned against appearing weak, insisting that backing down would only embolden her critics. Caught between competing interests, Crockett opted for a middle ground. During a town hall event in her district, she addressed the controversy head-on, striking a conciliatory yet firm note. "I've spent my career advocating for equality and justice," Crockett told the audience, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "And I stand by my belief that we must hold candidates accountable for their ideas, not their looks or age. However, if my choice of words caused harm, I regret that deeply. My intention has always been to critique policies, not individuals." The statement was carefully crafted to acknowledge concerns without conceding too much ground, and it earned mixed reviews. Some praised her for showing humility, while others dismissed it as damage control. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt continued to rise above the fray, maintaining her focus on the issues that mattered most to her constituents. Her campaign team capitalized on the controversy by releasing a series of ads highlighting her grassroots approach and commitment to unity. In one particularly powerful spot, Leavitt appeared alongside voters of all ages and backgrounds, emphasizing her belief in bringing people together despite their differences. "We're stronger when we work as one," she said in the ad, her tone warm and inviting. "That's the kind of leadership I want to bring to Washington." Leavitt's strategy paid off handsomely. Donations surged, volunteer sign-ups skyrocketed, and poll numbers showed her gaining traction in key demographics. Even some skeptics began to take notice, impressed by her ability to stay focused amid the chaos. "She's proving that you can win hearts and minds without stooping to personal attacks," a local news anchor remarked during a segment covering her campaign. "That takes real discipline, and maybe a little bit of grace." As the days turned into weeks, it became clear that the controversy had reshaped the political landscape in unexpected ways. For Greg Gutfeld, the episode solidified his reputation as a master provocateur capable of turning minor disputes into national spectacles. Ratings for Gutfeld soared, and he earned praise from colleagues for his ability to blend humor with sharp commentary. Yet critics remained vocal, accusing him of prioritizing spectacle over substance. "He's great at stirring the pot," one media analyst wrote in a column. But does any of this actually move the needle on meaningful issues? Despite the ongoing debate, one thing was undeniable. The saga surrounding Crockett, Leavitt, and Gutfeld had captured the nation's attention in a way few political dramas ever did. It served as a reminder of the complexities and contradictions of modern politics, where every word, gesture, and tweet could be scrutinized and weaponized. At its core, the story highlighted the delicate balance required to navigate a world where perception often outweighed reality. As the dust settled, or at least appeared to settle temporarily, the players involved moved forward, each carrying lessons learned from the experience. For Crockett, the controversy underscored the importance of choosing words wisely and considering their potential impact. For Leavitt, it reinforced the value of resilience and staying true to one's principles. And for Gutfeld, it proved once again that in the world of politics, timing, wit, and a dash of audacity could turn even the smallest remark into a cultural phenomenon. By the time the final chapter of this drama unfolded, viewers were left with lingering questions about power, perception, and the human need to be heard. Had the controversy brought us closer to understanding these dynamics or further apart? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. The story of Greg Gutfeld shredding Jasmine Crockett after she mocked Karoline Leavitt wasn't just entertainment. It was a reflection of who we are as a society, warts and all. As the dust began to settle on the heated controversy surrounding Jasmine Crockett, Karoline Leavitt, and Greg Gutfeld, a surprising shift occurred. What had started as a fiery exchange of words and biting commentary began to reveal deeper truths about the state of modern politics and human nature itself. The story wasn't just about who won or lost anymore. It was about how these moments reflect our collective struggles with fairness, bias, and the way we judge one another. Greg Gutfeld, ever the entertainer, seemed to sense this shift in tone. On his next episode of Gutfeld, he opened with his usual flair for sarcasm, cracking jokes about blonde jokes and political feuds. But as the show progressed, something unexpected happened. Gutfeld took a moment to step back from the chaos and reflect. Sitting at his desk, surrounded by the bright lights of the studio, he leaned forward and addressed the audience with an uncharacteristic seriousness. "You know," he began, his voice softer than usual, "we spend so much time tearing each other apart that sometimes we forget why we're even fighting in the first place." The comment caught viewers off guard. For weeks, Gutfeld had been gleefully dissecting every twist and turn of the drama, poking fun at both Crockett and Leavitt, while riling up his audience. Now here he was, pausing to ask whether any of it really mattered. He went on to explain that while satire and humor were essential tools for holding people accountable, they could also distract from the bigger picture. "At some point," he said, raising an eyebrow as if challenging himself as much as his viewers, "we have to decide. Are we debating ideas, or are we just hurling insults because it feels good?" This rare moment of introspection struck a chord with many. Some praised Gutfeld for acknowledging the limits of outrage culture, suggesting that perhaps he saw the toll such controversies took on public discourse. Others dismissed it as a calculated move to soften his image after weeks of relentless mockery. Regardless of his intentions, the segment added a layer of complexity to the narrative. It forced viewers to consider whether the constant cycle of criticism and counter-criticism was helping anyone or simply driving us further apart. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett found herself grappling with the aftermath of her remarks. Despite issuing a carefully worded apology during her town hall, the backlash hadn't fully subsided. Critics continued to accuse her of elitism and hypocrisy, while supporters defended her as a victim of manufactured outrage. Behind the scenes, sources close to Crockett revealed that she was feeling the weight of the situation. Allies urged her to focus on policy initiatives to shift attention away from the controversy, but old habits die hard. During a subsequent interview, she couldn't resist firing back at her detractors, accusing them of blowing her comments out of proportion. "If you want to critique my policies, fine," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But don't act like I said something unforgivable." Her defiant stance earned applause from her base but did little to repair her reputation among undecided voters. Polls showed a slight dip in favorability ratings, particularly among women under a demographic crucial to her future ambitions. Advisors warned that unless she pivoted quickly, the incident could haunt her for months, if not years. To their credit, Crockett's team devised a new strategy: lean into authenticity. They encouraged her to share personal stories about overcoming adversity, framing her journey as proof of her commitment to equality and justice. It was a risky move, but one they hoped would resonate with voters looking for substance over spectacle. On the other side of the aisle, Karoline Leavitt continued to rise above the fray, earning admiration for her refusal to engage in personal attacks. Her campaign released a series of heartfelt videos featuring testimonials from everyday citizens who believed in her vision for change. In one particularly moving clip, a young mother spoke about how Leavitt's emphasis on education reform had inspired her to get involved in local politics. "She listens," the woman said, tears welling up in her eyes. "She doesn't just talk. She actually cares." The video went viral, further cementing Leavitt's image as a compassionate and relatable leader. Leavitt herself remained focused on the issues, avoiding direct commentary on Crockett or Gutfeld. When pressed by reporters about the controversy, she offered only measured responses. "I'm running because I believe in bringing people together," she told a crowd at a campaign rally. "And that starts with focusing on what unites us, not what divides us." Her restraint paid dividends, as more voters began to see her as a breath of fresh air in an increasingly toxic political climate. Even some skeptics admitted that her ability to stay composed under pressure was impressive, especially for someone so young. Yet despite her growing popularity, Leavitt wasn't immune to challenges. As her profile rose, so did scrutiny of her policies, or lack thereof, according to critics. Pundits questioned whether her grassroots charm could translate into effective governance, pointing out gaps in her platform and experience. Conservative commentators, once quick to defend her against Crockett's remarks, now urged her to provide concrete solutions to pressing issues like healthcare and economic inequality. "Charisma only gets you so far," one analyst wrote in a widely shared op-ed. "At some point, voters will demand answers, and those answers better be solid." Amidst the ongoing debates, ordinary Americans weighed in with their own perspectives. Social media buzzed with discussions about bias, representation, and the double standards women face in leadership roles. Many expressed frustration with the way the controversy had overshadowed substantive policy debates, while others argued that such moments were inevitable in today's hyper-partisan environment. A Reddit thread titled, "Why Can't We Just Talk About Issues?" garnered thousands of comments, reflecting widespread exhaustion with performative politics. Even late-night comedians joined the conversation, using the saga as fodder for broader social commentary. Seth Meyers dedicated a segment of Late Night to exploring the absurdity of reducing complex individuals to stereotypes. "Think about it," he joked, pacing across the stage. "We've got one woman being criticized for calling someone a blonde, and another woman being judged for having blonde hair. Meanwhile, actual problems go unsolved. Classic 2023. His quip drew laughter and applause, underscoring the absurdity of the situation. As the weeks passed, the initial fervor around the controversy began to wane, replaced by quieter reflections on its implications. For Greg Gutfeld, the episode served as a reminder of his unique position in the media landscape. While some viewed him as a provocateur exploiting division for profit, others saw him as a necessary voice challenging complacency. Either way, his role in shaping the narrative was undeniable. By amplifying certain aspects of the feud while downplaying others, he influenced how millions perceived the players involved, and perhaps politics itself. For Jasmine Crockett, the experience was humbling but instructive. She realized that words carry weight, especially when spoken by someone in a position of power. Moving forward, she vowed to choose her language more carefully, recognizing that even well-intentioned critiques could be misinterpreted. At the same time, she refused to let the controversy define her legacy, doubling down on efforts to champion causes close to her heart. And for Karoline Leavitt, the ordeal proved to be a turning point in her young career. What might have derailed a less resilient candidate instead became an opportunity to showcase her strengths, poise, determination, and a steadfast focus on unity. Whether she ultimately succeeded in her bid for office remained to be seen, but one thing was clear. She had already made an indelible mark on the political stage. In the end, the saga of Gutfeld shredding Jasmine Crockett after she mocked Karoline Leavitt wasn't just a story about 3 individuals. It was a microcosm of the challenges facing society today. It highlighted the tension between entertainment and enlightenment, accountability and empathy, progress and tradition. And though the headlines may fade, the lessons learned will linger, shaping how we navigate the messy, unpredictable world of politics for years to come. As the dust finally settled on the saga of Gutfeld, Jasmine Crockett, and Karoline Leavitt, it became clear that this controversy was more than just a fleeting moment in the news cycle. It was a mirror reflecting the complexities of modern politics, media, and human behavior. The story had unfolded in ways no one could have predicted, leaving all 3 figures forever changed by their roles in the drama. For Gutfeld, the episode cemented his status as both a master provocateur and a polarizing figure. His late-night show, Gutfeld, reached record-breaking ratings during the height of the controversy, drawing viewers from across the political spectrum eager to see how he'd spin the latest twist. Yet, as the weeks went by, some began to wonder if even Gutfeld himself felt conflicted about the impact of his relentless satire. In a surprising move, he ended one of his episodes with a candid monologue, acknowledging the fine line between holding people accountable and perpetuating division. "I'll admit something," he said, leaning back in his chair with uncharacteristic vulnerability. "Sometimes I wonder if we're all so busy tearing each other down that we forget why we started caring in the first place." He paused, letting the words hang in the air before adding with a wry smile, "But hey, if I stop poking fun at politicians, what am I supposed to do? Start knitting?" The audience laughed, but there was a palpable sense that Gutfeld was grappling with his own role in shaping public discourse. Critics accused him of trying to soften his image after weeks of mockery, while supporters praised him for showing a more thoughtful side. Whatever his intentions, the moment added nuance to his persona, proving that even the sharpest commentators are capable of self-reflection. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett emerged from the ordeal scarred but resolute. The backlash she faced forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about perception versus intent. While she maintained that her initial comments were meant to critique policy, not appearance, she admitted privately to close allies that she underestimated how her words might land. "You can't control how people interpret you," she told a reporter in an unusually candid interview. "All you can do is learn and try to be better." True to her word, Crockett shifted gears, focusing less on fiery rhetoric and more on tangible action. She introduced several legislative proposals aimed at addressing issues like income inequality and healthcare access, framing them as evidence of her commitment to meaningful change. Her team also launched a grassroots campaign to reconnect with voters who felt alienated by the controversy, emphasizing her authenticity and dedication to public service. Slowly but surely, Crockett began rebuilding trust, though scars from the incident lingered. Some critics continued to use her remarks against her, particularly in debates over gender bias in politics, arguing that women should be held to higher standards regardless of party affiliation. Karoline Leavitt, on the other hand, emerged from the saga stronger than ever. Rather than allowing herself to become defined by the controversy, she used it as fuel to propel her campaign forward. By refusing to engage in personal attacks or retaliate against Crockett, she positioned herself as a model of grace under pressure, a rare quality in today's hyper-partisan climate. Her ability to stay focused on her message resonated deeply with voters, especially younger ones tired of divisive politics. Leavitt's campaign gained significant traction, thanks in part to an influx of donations and volunteer support sparked by the controversy. Social media played a crucial role in amplifying her message, with hashtags like respect and resilience trending alongside clips of her speaking passionately about unity and progress. Even skeptics who initially questioned her qualifications began to take notice, impressed by her poise and determination. "She's not perfect," one political analyst wrote in a column, "but she's proving that leadership isn't about being flawless. It's about learning and growing in real time." Still, challenges remained. As Leavitt's profile grew, so did scrutiny of her policies and experience. Opponents seized on perceived gaps in her platform, accusing her of prioritizing style over substance. During a televised debate, a moderator pressed her on specifics, asking how she planned to address complex issues like climate change and economic reform. Leavitt responded with measured confidence, outlining detailed proposals developed with input from experts and constituents alike. Though some critics dismissed her answers as overly optimistic, many voters appreciated her willingness to tackle tough questions head-on. The broader implications of the controversy extended far beyond the three central figures. It sparked nationwide conversations about double standards in politics, particularly for women. Pundits debated whether Crockett's remarks would have drawn the same level of outrage had they come from a man. Others questioned whether Leavitt's youth and appearance unfairly influenced perceptions of her competence. These discussions highlighted the persistent biases women face, regardless of ideology or background. Even outside the political arena, the saga left an indelible mark on popular culture. Late-night comedians continued to riff on the drama, using it as a lens through which to examine larger societal issues. Memes and parodies flooded social media, capturing everything from Gutfeld's biting quips to Crockett's defiant press conferences. For a brief moment, the trio became household names, symbolizing the highs and lows of navigating public life in the digital age. As the months passed, the headlines faded, replaced by new scandals and controversies. But the lessons learned from this saga endured. For Greg Gutfeld, it was a reminder of the power and responsibility that comes with wielding humor as a weapon. For Jasmine Crockett, it was a lesson in the importance of choosing words carefully and considering their potential impact. And for Karoline Leavitt, it was proof that resilience and focus could turn adversity into opportunity. In the end, the story served as a microcosm of the challenges facing society today. The tension between accountability and empathy, the allure of spectacle versus substance, and the enduring quest for connection in an increasingly divided world. It reminded us that politics is messy, unpredictable, and often deeply personal, but also profoundly human. Whether viewed as a cautionary tale, a source of inspiration, or simply another chapter in the never-ending drama of American politics, the saga of Greg Gutfeld shredding Jasmine Crockett after she mocked Karoline Leavitt will long be remembered as a testament to the complexities of our times. And so, life moved on. For Gutfeld, Crockett, Leavitt, and the millions of people who followed their every move. Yet the echoes of their clash lingered, shaping conversations and challenging assumptions in ways none of them could have foreseen. After all, in the theater of politics, the curtain never truly falls. It simply shifts, setting the stage for the next act.